And I think we always assume that everybody right now is financially struggling. And we also have to remember that there are many people who aren't. They have stable and secure government jobs or other types of employment or savings or whatever. So this period of time, they'll be able to shoulder it much easier than entrepreneurs or small businesses or other people. So you shouldn't make an assumption about what someone can or can't afford or does need. So I think it's our job just to put out any way we can serve people, any way we can bring them happiness and joy and beauty, and offer our services in them that way, and then let them make the decision whether they can afford it or not. I think I've seen that that assumption going around where like, oh, nobody can afford anything right now. And while that might be true for many people, it's not true for everybody.
When I first started my wedding photography business back in 2011, I made just $5,000 in my business. Now, I bring in multiple six figures per year while working only 30-hour weeks serving my dream couples. I'm here to help you discover that it's so possible to have what you want when you want in your business so that you can create the life you've always dreamed of and deserve. All right, guys, so I have Viara Mileva here. I'm so excited to chat with her. She's a really, really talented documentary family photographer. I'm really impressed by the work that she does. And also, I've recently been so impressed with the attitude she's been having with the situation that we're in. And I think we all want those kind of guiding lights with where we are right now, with feeling like, okay, what is going to happen with our income this year? What is happening? We're all kind of in the dark about things. And as soon as I saw Viara kind of take the role as a leader in one of a photographer's Facebook groups recently, with just giving ideas and tips on how we as photographers can bring in more income for our families as we stay home, I just loved her energy. And I'm like, I have to have her on the podcast and we have to have this conversation. So Viara, welcome. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having
me. And so today is just going to be a chat where me and Viara just collaborate on giving you guys tips on and ideas to help you get inspired on how you can, bring in a little bit more income while you're stuck at home so that you feel less stress and you get to see more hope that you really can be in control in your life, even through situations like this. And of course, this is a more sensitive situation to some people, and we totally respect that and see that, and your feelings are valid. This is going to be more of a positive, shining light episode on the hope that you can have and the positive action steps that you can take to, ride this out in a more positive way. So to start off, I would love to hear, Viara, and I'm sure listeners would love to hear just a little bit about why you love documenting families, how long you've been doing it for, and just a little bit of that background.
Yeah, so I'm going to go a bit farther back. This photography is my second career. I was actually a parenting scientist for the better part of 10 years. So I got my doctorate in parent-child interactions, and I studied hundreds and hundreds of mother-baby pairs while they played throughout their first 18 months of life. And so I got really good at observing family dynamics and understanding as a mother, but also as a researcher, the perspective of a parent, the struggles of a parent, the daily challenges that parents experience, and the daily joys, and how emotion is passed between mother and baby. So that was part of my research. But then once I became a photographer, it was very intuitive and natural for me to also notice those very same interactions and dynamics between parents and their children, between couples that I photograph, because I'm also a wedding photographer. So it was just a really nice, natural progression of my studies and way more fun because I got to actually interact with people and families and meet a whole bunch of people face to face, as opposed to, analyze their data behind a computer screen in a windowless lab, which is what I did for my PhD, and my postdoc had windows. But yeah, there's a lot of data analysis in those parts of science. So
wow, that is actually so cool. I did not expect you to say that. It's really, really fascinating. And it's amazing that you're now able to, like you said, just like experience it firsthand right in front of you. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, no, it actually, sometimes I don't stop to think about it, but when I run workshops on photography for people who are wondering how to photograph their own families, mainly to parents, I often think about that some of the things that seem intuitive to me might not be so intuitive to other people who haven't really spent that much time thinking about when emotion is being expressed and how emotion is being expressed and how to catch it. And so I have to really be careful to start from the very beginning and say, we have, first of all, these beautiful faces that can make amazing expressions. That's why, we have all these facial muscles. And it's such a shame this is a whole separate thing that I can go for hours and hours on, but it's a shame for us to hide our natural faces, as many of us do, especially as we become parents and as we start aging. A lot of us want to hide our faces and hide our double chins and all this stuff. And so I make it almost like a weekly part of my Instagram stories. And my message to people that follow me is like, this is beautiful. And our children and our partners and our friends rely on our expressivity, our facial expressions, to know how we're feeling. And especially for our children who are watching us, especially through this difficult time, expressions become extremely important because they indicate to our children how we're coping, how we're experiencing the world around us, and how we're reacting to unfolding events. And so I think that modeling joy and just peak expressions, whatever they might be, being free to express those in front of our kids and in front of our partners and friends is really, really important. And being able to capture that as a photographer and then put it in an album or put it up on the wall for somebody so that they can access those emotions on a daily basis is just really beautiful. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I am so grateful that you went there. That was such a beautiful perspective on documenting emotions. And man, all of us photographers, right, we do what we love because we want to document those moments for people and help them remember how they felt. But the thing that fascinates me the most is so many photographers I speak to, they all have a different perspective on why and the way they see everything. And I've never heard it said that way. And it was just like poetic almost, and had a lot to do with like psychology and behavioral science, right? And I love that stuff, fascinates me as well. So thanks for that perspective. That's so cool. And it totally comes through in your work. I love your work so much.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I throughout my whole time as a graduate student, I had, kind of idealized some of the photographs that I started seeing online. And I was starting to, at this point, as I was completing my PhD and starting my postdoc, I started following photographers like Alain Lebois from France, who was documenting the life of his children in a rural part of France. And they were just sort of living this idyllic life, frolicking outside. And after that, I found Nikki Boone and a whole bunch of other sort of family documentary photographers. And this was way before I even thought that I would ever become a photographer. It just happened serendipitously because I moved back to Canada after my postdoc, and there's not a lot of jobs in academia for, we're very specialized. It's a tiny niche, parenting behavior. And so you have to be able to either keep traveling the world for a job, or the way we did it is we wanted to start a hobby farm and settle down and have some stability for our kids. So we just really put our foot down and said, we're going to settle here in Kingston. And if there's no jobs, then so be it. We will figure it out. And so there were no jobs. So I taught for a couple of years. And then through that time, I started being more and more into the idea of photographing my own family. So that's actually how it started. I was taking photographs of my own kids and trying to emulate in some ways the emotions that I was seeing in these photographers that I admired and followed. And through that process, I was just posting them on Facebook, again, not thinking that it would ever become a business. And then I had someone approach me and say, I love your photographs and I'm having a baby. Will you photograph my birth at the hospital? And I will pay
beautiful.
you. And yeah, and I was like, wow, okay. And at this point I was still shooting auto on full auto mode and still shooting with like an entry-level DSLR. Had no idea what to expect. I had a nice fancy lens that my father had lent me. So armed with that and very little prior experience of any kind of client photography, I basically went into the hospital, and I happened to have amazing light. This hospital room where she labored had this beautiful window, and it was shuttered with these nice blinds that let in lots of diffuse light. So I really lucked out there.
That's awesome.
The images I'm still really proud of to this day, but that's kind of how it all started. It was just this person putting their trust in me, and I didn't know how to price myself, so they suggested what they were willing to pay me, and it was a really large sum at the time because I was working remotely as an academic, and I was teaching some courses in Kingston at Queen's University, and it was a difficult time. We had just moved house, or we had moved countries, so it was a very financially difficult time. It was difficult because it was a new city. I knew nobody here. And so it was just one of those really nice, bright spots of light that kind of illuminated the path ahead. And I had pretty much never looked back since.
That's beautiful.
Like, okay, I set up a business. I set up a website and a Facebook page and everything, and just kind of rolled from there.
Yeah. And as that happens to all of us, right? And now look at where we are. Now we're going to be talking about how we can help people shine a light for themselves right now in this time with bringing in some additional income when maybe they have some cancellations happening if you're a wedding photographer, or right now you can't be shooting because you're in quarantine, right? So I'm excited to chat more. Thank you for sharing part of that story, part of your story. I know there's so much more to it, and I could feel like we could talk about it for hours. Okay, so to actually start off, before we go there, I wanted to do a quick little like lightning round questions. And yeah, I think I'm pretty excited about the ones I got. And Viara has no idea what I'm about to ask her. So we'll see how this goes. She's like, damn you, Sarah. Okay, it's not that bad. Okay, ready? Current favorite color.
Ready. Favorite color?
Yeah.
Like yellow, orange.
Okay. Bucket list country to travel to.
Oh my gosh. How much time do I have?
3.
Bucket list country.
2. 1.
Australia.
Oh yeah, Australia's a good one. Book recommendation.
Oh my gosh, I'm totally drawing a blank. I have so many. The Road, Cormac McCarthy.
The Road. Cool. Fiction, or is it fiction or nonfiction?
It's fiction. Yeah, there's a movie, but the book is way better as usual.
Okay, cool. Bath time or shower time?
Both.
What do you prefer?
Literally both. So I have like the shower running, and I plug the bathtub, and then I just like take like a 40-minute shower so that the bath eventually fills.
Oh, smart.
And I get my best business ideas during this time.
Wow.
So just a tip.
What a tip. That's awesome. Okay, salty or sweet?
Sweet.
Okay. Current Netflix obsession?
Oh, I just finished Broadchurch, which is awesome. And so now I'm on like the incredible Mrs. Maisel, the fantastical Mrs. Maisel, something about Mrs. Maisel. It's on it's on Prime. Sorry. I'm terrible at this.
No, that's good. I totally just sprung these on you. I'm trying this out for the first time too. So, and last one. Are you ready for the last one? Are aliens real? Yes or no?
I have such a long answer to this one. Yes, I believe that there are aliens in our universe. Absolutely. I think there's other intelligent life forms. However, I don't think they're on Earth.
Okay, cool. I agree. Aliens are real wherever they are. Okay, thanks so much for humoring me on that. I was like, I'm dying to try it, and I went with my instinct today. I'm like, yeah, these are just random questions that popped into my head. Okay, so yeah, I'm so excited to dive into any tips you have for how photographers can bring in more income at this time while they're at home. So I know you have a list of things, and I know I have a list of things, but I think we'll go ahead and have you share your ideas first, and then we'll just keep going with the flow.
Awesome. Is it okay, just before we start with the list of ideas, just to kind of address something that I think is even more foundational, which is kind of the mindset that we ought to try to strive towards during this time?
100%.
Because I think
Yeah.
that kind of affects. So, we have kind of, I don't know if it's necessarily choices, because to some of us, these mindsets come easier than to other people. So what Todd Herman, who is a speaker and an author, he recently did this research where he interviewed CEOs, and he interviewed them about how they're coping with this current pandemic and the ensuing business crisis and everything like that. And what he found is that they tend to fall into three buckets. So you had the people, the CEOs in the first group, who were kind of the scared group. They were worried, they were preoccupied about thinking about future in a negative way, negative action words like, this will be detrimental to my business. This, all these kind of worries were creeping into their thoughts constantly. And they tended to play the blame game more. They were more political. They were trying to attribute blame to the current situation, to other political figures and whatever. And they were watching a lot of news. They were consuming 5 times more news than anyone else. And then you had the middle group, which was the kind of scattered and also slightly in denial group. They tended to have their head in the sand a little bit, and they just were kind of writing things out and waiting, and tended to say, like, we don't know what's happening, or like, it's not that bad, or whatever. And then the third group was the strategy focus group. And that group of CEOs tended to be really action oriented. They were consuming far less media and news, and they tended to use completely different words. They used words like action, opportunity, and they weren't quite so using words like feeling in a negative way. And so to me, now, as a former scientist, this is not a scientific study, right? This is just polling people on their opinions and then transcribing those words and seeing patterns. But I bet you, and we've seen this before in research, that if you were to now follow these three groups of people over the next 6 to 8 months, you're going to find that the people who are strategy focused, who are tending to stay away from the negative impacts of media and news and trying to put things into positive action and trying to actually do something productive, I bet you over the next 6 to 8 months, they're going to be seeing results and be successful and staying afloat, and maybe even increasing their revenues over this time. So mindset is so important, and essentially how you explain the events, whether you overly focus on placing blame for the current events, or feel helpless about them, versus saying, okay, this is where we are. I am aware that there's a problem and that we're facing an incredibly challenging time, possibly the most challenging we've ever faced in our lifetimes. And what am I going to do about it? I have kind of a choice here. I can either wallow in despair, or I can try to lift myself out of this, lift other people out of it with me, continue to serve people, maybe serve other types of clientele that I've never served before. How can I be the best that I can be during this time for myself and for others? So
I love
that's kind of
that you brought that up, because it's like that those questions are so much more powerful than, why is this happening to me, right? Or you're just asking quality questions. And also, I love that you shared that, because the way that you kind of explained it with the 3 buckets, you can kind of visualize that. You could see the difference even with how you talk about the people that are in the first bucket, in the middle bucket, the third bucket. I actually feel like my energy shifts. Like if you talked about the people that are like more action oriented and like see the opportunity and use more positive words, I feel inspired, and I feel like, oh, if they're doing it, I can do it, right? So it's a beautiful example that you shared. I love that you shared that. Actually, I feel like, would you want to touch on one of the experiences that you had when you were younger, when you went through something similar to this? Because I think it would be very powerful for you to share that you actually went through a very difficult time, but your mindset was a thing that pushed you through, as a new perspective for people. Yeah.
So when I was 9 years old, I was in Bulgaria. That's where I was born and raised. And Bulgaria was a communist country at the time of my birth. And then around when I was 8 or 9 years old, the communist system, the communist regime in Bulgaria toppled. And it didn't happen overnight. It happened over the course of a year and a half. And it was a kind of a progressive downward economic spiral. And throughout this time, people experienced a lot of hardship. And then they also experienced a lot of positive things. So there was both. So while the stores were completely empty, the shelves were absolutely empty. Like the photographs you're seeing now, there's still like a few jars of pasta sauce left, and they are restocking every week or more than that. And apparently Costco has, converted half of the store for toilet paper aisles. So there are things.
Yeah.
When I was a child, there literally just was nothing. And we were all given little ration stamps to buy the essentials like flour and other things. But when you went to the store with your little coupons, there was nothing to actually buy with them. And, the bread would only last for so long, and you would wait in long lines with a lot of elderly people who were very hungry and on pensions, and they couldn't get bread, and it would run out before they got to the front of the line. And we had electricity shortages, so they started rationing electricity too. So it would be 2 hours on, 2 hours off, and at any time the electricity could go off. And I'm not entirely sure how my parents tackled that with respect to keeping the freezer going, but there wasn't much in our freezer anyway, because like I said, there was, food shortages for everyone. The fuel ran dry, so the gas stations were completely dry. Nobody could drive, or it was so expensive that it was just prohibitive. So people stopped driving. It was just a very challenging economic time. And yet at the same time, I remember people banding together to attend rallies, like democratic rallies, to push forward for democracy. And I would see like my uncle and my parents and my aunt, and they would go to these meetings, and they weren't safe for children to go because there was always the potential that something would happen at these protests and these rallies. So we would stay home, but we would see how energized they were coming back from these. And they had just spent like 3 hours or 4 hours, marching the streets with posters and yelling to the top of their lungs for democracy. And just the whole Bulgarian society seemed to be banding together. And it very much reminds me of what's happening now, which is that we're seeing this time of crisis. We're seeing a very difficult time for many businesses, for people who are affected health-wise. We're seeing healthcare systems overrun. But at the same time, we're seeing such a quick societal response and banding together to slow down and stay home and protect the elderly, and also to protect small businesses and to continue to nurture small businesses and pensioners, or people are driving groceries in Kingston and around where I live to people in need. So I'm seeing so much beautiful stuff that's happening out there, and it's really, really encouraging. And it does remind me of what it was like when I was a child, and I didn't experience the events of being a kid, having no food at the store, having no food at home, as something necessarily negative, because through it all, my family we'd sit together over candlelight, when the electricity had gone out, and we would sing songs or tell stories. And when you're a child, you just kind of go along with events. That's your normal. You don't think that you're living, because everybody's experiencing it together. It's not like you're the only one. You know that all your friends are going through the same thing. So yeah, it was maybe it taught me, maybe that's why this time around, I'm not panicking. I'm sad that so many people have to be ill, and that our healthcare workers are having to work so hard, and that our hospitals are going to be overrun. And, I'm sad about all that stuff, but I'm not worried about the future of humanity, because I've seen so many beautiful things come out of this process, this crisis.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said. And yeah, it's kind of, for my perspective here, as soon as me and Rory heard that those schools were shutting down for 2 weeks after March break, that was the day we kind of, I forget when that was, but we were just going to the grocery store for regular essentials, and it was like a Thursday night at 7:30 p.m. and it was so busy, and I'm like, what the heck? Like this could be something that could be happening, right? And then out of that feeling, everyone was talking to each other, right? And like everyone was like joking around with each other. It felt so interesting to me that at this time where it could be like one of the hardest times, I feel more connected to the people around me, strangers in the community than ever. And I've really enjoyed that part of it in a way. And I hope that after all of this heals, that hopefully a big part of that will stay in our society. I don't know if it will because, we all have jobs and we get busy and we get wrapped up, but I hope this is maybe just a sign from the universe just to like, hey guys, like slow down, like remember the simple things in life are what matter most, like love, relationships, health, all of that, right? So yeah, I love your story, that perspective. Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So do you feel like there's anything else you want to kind of get off your chest or talk about before we jump into the action steps or
No,
action
I'm good.
items?
Let's talk action.
Okay, sounds good. I totally get it. You're trying to get noticed and you don't know how. I mean, raise your hand if wondering where your next booking will come from keeps you up at night. I know how that feels like. I was there once too. But I'm about to help you get clear on how to increase your bookings and inquiries. After coaching many portrait and wedding photographers, I realized they all had one thing in common that was holding them back from booking their dream clients. They didn't know how to market themselves. Once they got clarity on how to show up and put what they learned from me into action, they began to book more of their dream clients. And now I'm excited to help you do the same. So I've created a mini course called Crystal Clear Marketing to, you guessed it, help you get crystal clear on how to attract and book your dream clients. I mean, the year I implemented this, my revenue grew from $69,000 to $137,000 in just 1 year. So if I can do it, you can do it too. So in case you're wondering, inside of the Crystal Clear Marketing mini course, I share how to optimize your website so that more of your dream clients inquire and book, how to go from being a generalist to becoming a specialist, and why it matters, how to find out who you are at your core and fuse it fearlessly into your business. Also, how to show up on IG so you attract quality followers. That's so important. How to make the money you deserve while feeling fulfilled with your work, and how to make marketing effortless and fun, because it should be. Running our business should be fun. So what I'm so excited to share with you is that I've made this very affordable. So to get all the deets and enroll in this mini course, go to sarahmonica.com/crystal clear. Again, head over to sarahmonica.com/crystal clear. I cannot wait to see you in there. So let me know what you have on your mind first to share.
Well, maybe I'll start with the things that I'm doing that seem to be working for me. So
Yeah.
one of the very first things is that I was in the middle of teaching a photography course in real life in Kingston, so at a physical location. So I'd rented out an art studio, and every Thursday night I was teaching a course, and it was an 8-week course. So I wanted to, because I miss teaching at university. So I wanted to run this like a university course without all the pressure of being tested. So that's kind of how I scheduled it. There was homework, there was lectures a little bit, there was in-class exercises, there was all this kind of stuff, but it was non-compulsory and supposed to be really fun. And then the coronavirus happened halfway through. And so it was easy for me because I already use Zoom for the other part of what I do as a photographer, which is I'm a coach and a mentor. And so I had this system already in place where I could very easily run virtual workshops. So I thought, okay, for my existing students that were meeting up in Kingston with me every Thursday, we can just continue to run this online. And then I thought, okay, so why not just continue that and just offer it to other people too? Because during this time, you've got, my demographic, which are parents with kids, like preteen to teenage, that are bored out of their minds and wondering what they can do and looking for learning opportunities, and also learning for a way to process what's happening to them. And I thought, why they're probably in need of something like this. many of them have DSLR cameras sitting around that they've never had the time to learn. Many of them are intimidated by their cameras. And so I thought this would be a great way for me to offer that kind of help to the community, and also, while continuing to do something, because being productive is a way to keep yourself out of wallowing in despair.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I came up with this workshop, online photography workshop idea. I called it, I toyed around with the name. I was going to call it Photography in the Time of Corona, but it just seemed like I didn't want to even mention.
It's okay. We all have our brainstorming moments, right? Where we're like, this would work. Oh, no, maybe not.
Yeah, I just was like, I don't want to be like cheesy with it. So I just called it Online Photography Workshops for Adults and Children in Self-Isolation. And the idea is very simple. I'm giving a monthly pass away. And so you can purchase a monthly registration, and then you can attend any of the live workshops that are happening. So I have different topics each week, and I'm going to add more. I'm adding other photographers with different areas of expertise, like pet photography, portrait photography, and I'm hoping to have some portfolio reviews too. So it's just kind of an ongoing, evolving project with a whole bunch of new things coming up. And people who sign up, they just get all the content essentially for free. All the workshops are recorded. And so what that enables me to do is just deliver a huge amount of educational content to a huge amount of people in a very short amount of time, while also repurposing things that I've already prepared, like course materials and lecture notes. Mm-hmm. And I'm also using this as an opportunity to give back to the community, and especially to small local businesses who don't have an ability to put their stores online or their offerings online like I have. A lot of small local businesses are panicking and struggling because they're a brick and mortar based business and they have no way of digitizing that. And so for every 10 registration that I get, one of them, the funds goes to supporting small local businesses. And that's been a really
that's beautiful,
well-received thing. So that's kind of working really well for me.
Can I ask how you actually implement that after? Like, do you go to one of a local small business and just kind of give them that gift, or how do you implement that?
So I'm asking people to essentially give me a list of small businesses that they would like to see supported through this. And then it's going to be really difficult to make that decision. So it might just be a matter of raffling it off. And then it would be, instead of going to them in person, I would probably digitally deliver that small symbolic gift of support. I mean, I understand $75 doesn't go a long way in supporting a small business to run,
but it does
if they've lost their
because it gives them hope too.
Exactly, it's just a way to show that the community is thinking about them and that they're contributing. And so I hope to get lots of people to register, and that way we can give back to more small businesses.
That's such a great idea. I love that you thought of that idea. It's I
saw something similar, so I shouldn't take full credit for this. I saw something similar posted somewhere by another photographer in the wedding industry, Tyler Workin, and so I think he had a similar, like he was going to raffle off every 30th registration or something. I'm not sure, but it just seems so intuitive and so kind of a no-brainer. Like I feel so incredibly lucky that literally a day after entering self-isolation, I can put my services online and people will register. Whereas many of these people that are my friends who are small business owners are much more heavily impacted. So I think that's why my message to photographers is one of hope, especially for us, because we have so many skills that can go online. We just need to be, creative and action oriented. I hate to keep using 100%. The same word,
but even to talk to the point of you creating like a workshop. So a photographer listening to this right now could be thinking, but what can I create? And oh my gosh, what if it's just so much work to create an online workshop? I don't even know where to start. Every single human has some kind of knowledge that someone else needs or wants. Maybe you're 10 steps ahead of someone, and that person that's 10 steps behind you just wants that knowledge from someone, right? So you could literally put together a mini course. It could be a mini course on one topic, sell it for $50. You can use Gumroad. I've heard that it only costs $10 a month to host like your courses on there. And it's just really easy to just upload the videos on there and stuff like that. So that is totally an option for you if you feel stuck on, but what do I teach? It could be anything. Maybe the way you shoot, maybe the way you direct couples, the way you communicate with your couples, the experience you provide your couples that you've found that is providing you with a lot of referrals. Like anything you can share that is working well for you, you can create a mini course and then sell it for like $50, $75, and you're golden, right?
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to think too big right now. Just start small. For me, I have this need to connect with the community, and that's something that keeps me wanting to help people who are at the amateur level as well. And that's why, and those are easy for any of us professional photographers to really talk about, because things that seem intuitive to us, like what is ISO and what is aperture, seem very, very overwhelming to people. And, being able to break that apart for somebody and teach it to them in a really intuitive way is actually so meaningful. And it's literally can take, 2 hours in a workshop to really go through fun ways to do this. This is what I did yesterday. We ran our first workshop, and it was camera basics. And so I had a few slides prepared, like literally like 6 or 7 slides. And then I shared my screen with everybody, because I use Zoom and it's really great. So I shared my screen, and I was just even Googling like how to apply like long exposure and what that means in terms of shutter speed. And I gave them homework, especially there was kids that joined the workshop, like preteen kids, and they were really into the idea. And so I told them like, okay, tonight when it's dark, hold a lighter up or with a parent or a little flashlight and try to draw a heart when it's, use a slow shutter speed and try to draw in the air using your light source, and just giving them like little creative things like this, because people are wanting ideas for what to do at home and how to stimulate their kids' learning too. So for me, that angle made a lot of sense. But if you want to teach photographers or connect with other wedding photographers, there's so many things you can offer. So it's not necessarily
exactly. And guess what? Even if on the side you love to bake and you have amazing recipes, you can even create a mini course on how to bake those recipes, or you know what I mean? Like it doesn't even just have to be photography. Like even if you have a little mini side hobby and right now you have nothing to shoot, you can just get creative with that too. So online course, number one, that could be a online workshop or online course could be a great way for you to make some extra revenue. And what else did you have in mind, Viara?
So another thing that I'm doing is I'm designing wall art and albums for people, for past clients. I didn't used to offer print sales when I first started. I fairly recently implemented that. And so I'm reaching back to my other clients and saying, hey, if you have, a blank wall that you've always wanted to display something on, and you've got a stack of photos lying around in your computer or your phone, I can help you make that space really beautiful and help you have those family moments to connect with, especially during these dark times. And so what's ending up happening is actually I'm having someone who I photographed 3 years ago. And so her photos that I've taken are quite old. So she's using some of those for wall art that I'm going to create for her, but she's also sending me some that she has taken of herself with her own DSLR. And I'm going to edit those for her, and I'm going to put those towards a wall art collection.
That's
so
amazing.
I'm providing sort of editing services for her, working with her photographs, also with mine, and taking all the guesswork out of creating this beautiful space. I'm using Fundy, and so I'm asking her to send me a snapshot of her living room. And so it's just a really easy way to help people bridge what they currently have in their computer, family photos, wedding, whatever it is, and just put it up for them in a really easy way, so they don't have to do any work. Because that's one thing, going back to all my clients that I didn't offer print sales to, is that they're still sitting on their digital photos, and many of them don't even have them downloaded yet. So I've realized that, this is just an overwhelming thing, that we expect people to make their own prints and decide
it's so true.
which
it's
prints
that
go
thing
up where,
that people can easily procrastinate. Oh, I'll do it next week. I'll do it next month. And now is kind of an incredible time because they are stuck at home and all of this can be done from home. So Yeah, that's amazing. And especially at this time when everyone's really being even more so full of gratitude for their health and their family and being able to be with their loved ones, they're probably even more connected to those memories. And then they could be more likely to want to actually be in action of like preserving them. So I love your idea about, reaching out to past clients. This could be for anyone. If you're a family photographer or a wedding photographer, just, put together a beautiful email explaining what the benefit would be. And maybe even, I don't know, I don't know, Viara, what you're doing, but maybe even offering like a special coupon code if people have photos in their wedding gallery for just like, okay, just at this time, like, here as an incentive for you to actually make it happen, because if not now, when, right? So a ton of that's so many, you can get so many album and print orders that way for sure.
Yep. And I think we always assume that everybody right now is financially struggling. And we also have to remember that there are many people who aren't. They have stable and secure government jobs or other types of employment or savings or whatever. So this period of time, they'll be able to shoulder it much easier than entrepreneurs or small businesses or other people. So you shouldn't make an assumption about what someone can or can't afford or does need. So I think it's our job just to put out any way we can serve people, any way we can bring them happiness and joy and beauty, and offer our services in them that way, and then let them make the decision whether they can afford it or not. I think I've seen that that assumption going around where like, oh, nobody can afford anything right now. And while that might be true for many people, it's not true for everybody. So.
Exactly. I love that you said that, because even, for example, people aren't going to stop spending. They're just going to change where they spend their money. So for example, if people maybe will stop going to get manicures, pedicures, maybe going to restaurants to eat, maybe they had allocated budgets for entertainment, spending time with friends and family, making big dinners, like that money that they're now saving by being stuck inside for 2 weeks to a month, who knows, right? Could go towards a beautiful album or prints, right? So people are not going to want to stop spending. The people are still going to be shopping online and all of that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that if we're offering to provide education or services through getting prints for them, or in any way filling their time in a positive way or their emotions in a positive way, I think those are really meaningful ways to serve people.
Exactly.
And so I think we shouldn't feel bad that we're offering this to people. I think that's kind of one of the mindsets that stops people from putting things out there in a time like this. They're just kind of like, oh no, it's my duty to just, remain quiet. And I don't think that's true. I don't think, from what I've seen in my own city, there's been nothing but support for any small business person who is trying to change the services they offer at this time or promote the services they offer. People are very, very supportive. So don't be afraid to reinvent yourself. And it might take some, soul searching of what you feel comfortable with, what makes you passionate. This might be also a really good time to pause and identify things that haven't worked for you that you've just kind of been doing because you needed that paycheck. So take this as a kind of resetting time. I think it's really helpful.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So number 2, we have offering to help design albums or wall art or selling prints to our previous clients, which we all have, at least, even if you're just starting, at least have 1 or 2, right? And if you've been in it longer, you have a ton of past clients that you can reach out to.
I would extend that and just say even to non-clients, because if they have photos that are, not everybody has really high resolution photos, but if they have decent images, you can just offer to edit them and put them in a little photo book for them. You could be doing that. You could be doing the service that they would normally do. So it opens up the playing field to essentially anyone in your community, anyone that you know, that might have a stack of digital photos somewhere, and they might just be like, I have always wanted to get these printed and I don't know how, and I want a professional photographer to like do some editing for me.
And that's what you call thinking outside of the box. Yeah. I didn't even think of it that way. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well,
is there another? Go ahead, Viara.
I think we're attached to editing our own work, right? Because it's our, our own product, and we don't necessarily often think about editing other people's photos, especially if they're not professional photographers. But I think, why not? We're good at this. We have these skills. It's just another skill we can offer. That's a digital skill. So
it's so true. Yeah. Great point. Is there another one that you had?
I did, but I haven't ever tried this for myself. I know other people who have successfully done it, which is just to offer fine art prints through your online web store. So you can put like a little, any beautiful landscape images or any images really that you could sell, a stock print or whatever. You could do that for people online through your website. And that's just one thing. I have never.
Yeah, it could be as simple as just uploading those to like a Pixie gallery, and then people can straight up just buy prints off of there, just like as your wedding clients or portrait clients would buy their prints off there. So that's also a great tip for those that love getting more creative and creating that kind of like art and landscape kind of photography. I'm trying to think here if I see something in my list that I can offer. Do you feel like you've hashed out all your ideas?
No, I can just keep like adding.
Oh, that's awesome.
Bits,
okay.
But it's all along the same veins. Yeah.
Okay, let me say a couple, and then if you have another one that you like want to share, let me know. So for me, one thing that right now is a good opportunity to do is to take a look into stock photography, selling stock photography online. And you can do it via the Image Source or West End or Stocksy. There are a ton of other places. So I have gone on a journey, I think in the past year and a half, to start that up for me, because I want to figure out how to build passive income opportunities on the side for me, right? So that, in case something like this happens, right, I have multiple income streams and I'm more protected. So I've been dabbling in the Image Source, and that's been for about a year and a half. But I'll be straight up, I think so far I've only made $1,500 in that amount of time. So I would say on average, I make $100 per month for passive income for now. And I think I have about 1,000 images. So I'm not suggesting this as a way of as soon as you start your stock photography adventure, you're going to start making money right away. No, it's a process, and I'm letting you know that from experience, but it is a good time to maybe just start, maybe apply to one of those companies and start adding in some images and take a little bit more interest in that, because maybe the more stock photos you have up there over time, it's like a compound effect. You'll just keep getting money randomly coming into your account passively, even if it's $100 a month, or I know some people cover their full mortgage every month now, which is amazing. And I mean, I don't know how much their mortgage is. It could be anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 a month, right? So I don't know that number. But I have just heard of people having good success with this. So this is definitely a good time for you to go back into your archives, into any photos that you can share, and just apply for that and start that passive income slowly but surely, make it start rolling in for you. And another idea would be, obviously, as you mentioned, Viara, like online workshops, but even just straight up mentoring sessions virtually, right? So we talked about kind of more of like teaching and like in a course style, but you can also offer like one-off, virtual mentoring sessions on whatever topic you feel comfortable teaching. And that there are people that really want to learn that from you. And one great way you could do that is just to, go on maybe if you have Instagram, ask people like, oh, what's one thing that you would really love to learn from me? And then that's how you get the information on what people would want to pay you to learn. And then you can say, okay, guys, now I'm offering like 1 hour mentoring session on this topic. It costs X amount of money. And I know you're probably wondering, where do I even start with price? You could just start it at like whatever feels good to you. And then slowly, if more people are booking, you can always kind of raise it. And as you get more experience, as you could see that it's positively impacting people, you could slowly raise that over time. But just start with whatever feels good to you, whether it's, I don't even know, Viara, what would you say, like $100 for an hour? Around there.
Yeah, I would even start with 75 or even 50 if you're unsure. Like just try out a couple at a price where if you're not feeling confident yet and you don't think that you're going to provide as much value as $100, which I'm sure that's a limiting mindset, but just start lower if you feel like that's where you need to start just to get some confidence. And then you'll see that people are very thankful just to even have a frank conversation and to be mentored. So then you can definitely increase.
Yeah, exactly. I remember when I first started my photography business and I began to notice that I was wasting so much time typing the same responses over and over again in email. It got to the point where I didn't have much time for other tasks that would actually help me grow my business because I was spending hours and hours a day on emails. Does that sound familiar to you? To solve this problem for myself, I started to create canned responses that I could copy into an email and customize it for every single inquiry and client. This has saved me loads of time, and now emails are less daunting as a result. You can also get your hands on these exact email templates I've created since they are now available for you in my shop. The email templates guide for wedding photographers includes 26 email templates, and not only does it have those in there, but every single template has an explanation of why I respond the way I do. I created this guide to show you that you can respond by being yourself while at the same time strategically being on top of emails in a way that requires less back and forth between you and your client or inquiry. This way, you can serve couples well, but also have boundaries in place to have a healthy work-life balance for yourself. To get your hands on these so you can implement them into your business right away, head over to sarahmonica.com/email guide. And when you get there, just scroll down and you'll find a whole breakdown of all the templates that are included. So head over to sarahmonica.com/email guide right now. And so those are kind of my tips that I had. So is there any, because you said you're like, oh, I have so many ideas. Is there anything else that you think you want to share? Or do you feel like that was kind of like the best direction we can give everyone?
I mean, there's always small permutations of the ideas that we've mentioned. There's so many skills, like you said, that people have. Like I very recently I'm just going to share my journey a little bit. Recently so last year I invested quite a bit into a mentoring program, which then opened up so many doors for me. So now I'm actually a mentor at this same academy where I was a student. And now I also coach copywriting because that happens to be a skill of mine that's quite a strength. So I've been a writer before I was a photographer. I published science fiction. I've published multiple.
Okay, I'm straight up like bowing
articles.
down to you. You're incredible.
No.
I'm just like, can I be you? First of all, how articulate you are. I'm straight up kind of jealous. I'm working on my I'm really proud of myself because I used to say like a lot as filler words. And through this podcast, I've been able to train myself to just slow down. But I'm just very impressed with you with just how intelligent you are and creative and everything. I'm like, okay, I just had to praise you for a second. Keep going.
Oh, thank you. Since we're praising, I'm going to say the same about you. I get so much inspiration from following your Instagram. And when the other day, you had your growth chart of income over the years. And like you have been, since I started, you've been like one of my kind of heroes to pursue in how to run a business, because I think you're really a person who completely embodies like loving what you do, but also not being, I don't know what the right word is, but not being held back by a bunch of limiting beliefs about whether we should be able to make money doing what we love. So I love that you encourage people to live their best life and make money doing it. And in that way, create stronger communities, contribute to the economy. You are now hiring multiple people. You're paying other people to help you out. And I think that's the best way we can bolster our communities is through having thriving businesses so that we can employ other people also And so I've recently just gone through that process. So now I've been working with a virtual assistant, but now I have a person who's doing my social media marketing and everything like that. So I think it's really, I think you're amazing and I take a lot of inspiration from you. So right back at you, girl.
Thank you. That was a nice little love fest. And congrats on, getting help. Doesn't it feel amazing to just be able to have like a second you at times? It's like,
well, I mean, okay, if I'm completely honest, like I ran a bunch of interviews and my struggle is like how to narrow it down. So I ended up like having 4 people that are going to do work for me. Because my thing is that we should be really working with people's strengths. That's when we all thrive. So I've always dreamed, since the very beginning, I've dreamed of having a community around me of photographers, but also administrative people and marketing people and people who can use their strengths to do something they love and contribute to growing a business. And so now I have like multiple people who one will be helping me like stay organized because I lack that. And then another person will be doing my social media and another person will be doing my design. And so I'm spreading like the tasks.
That's beautiful. I totally agree.
Each person has strengths, right? Like the idea of like outsourcing everything to one person is, I think, unrealistic. Where it's just, I think, better served to like have a team of people who are contributing what they're good at.
Yeah, and it's in a way. So the way I see outsourcing everything to one person, there are specific personality traits. So like I teach this in my outsourcing course, where, for example, you can find out if there's someone that just loves to like be challenged or try new things and loves variety and all those things. So I think it's totally possible to first off, like maybe let's say hire a virtual assistant that does all the things and they learn all the things and try different things. But for me personally, the way I totally agree with what you said of like, it's so important for people to love what they do because they stay excited, they stay passionate, they stay loyal, they do their best, right? So what I'm doing with my virtual assistant is, she started off with like doing all the things, all the tasks, but as she keeps moving closer to almost being full-time with me, I've communicated with her that anytime you're like tired of any type of task, please communicate it with me so I can make a plan for the future to hire on a second VA to take on those. And as you grow and help me more in the business, you'll grow with the challenges you want to take on. And I'm there to make sure you're like more self-actualized, right? So it is possible to have someone like be more generalist and teach them to do all the things. But in the long run, like you said, I think it's more sustainable to have to make sure that they're fulfilled and they're living out their purpose and they that it's very, very good and such a powerful thing to have someone that's maybe even better than you at a certain skill, right? As a teammate. It's amazing. So that's so fun to hear that you've gone that direction because that's amazing.
So I think for me, I think maybe it helped me that I was in academia for so many years because I saw that exact thing happening. And that was one of the things I missed so much was this communal synergy that happened during my postdoc, which was a 2-year time in the Netherlands. I was one of 10 postdocs and there was 35 PhDs and there was like a bunch of supervisors and sometimes there would be a grant opportunity coming up and we would all apply for the same grant. So we were essentially competing, but we would all encourage each other and read each other's grant applications and help each other and present in front of each other and edit each other's work. And through that, our group was highly productive across the world. We published so many papers. We were, the hub of so many ideas were born there.
That's beautiful.
And so for me, that I've always tried to recreate in photography, and it's really difficult because as photographers, we're pitted against each other frequently in our local communities. As a wedding photographer, you're competing with all the other wedding photographers. So it does feel a lot more immediate, the competition. And so I think it prohibits a lot of people from being open with their colleagues and from sharing their pricing, from sharing their business strategies, from wanting to see other people succeed in your community. And I think, honestly, that's really detrimental because I think I've always believed this, and I've said this from the very first day I became a photographer, if we generate a buzz about photography by supporting each other as photographers and putting our work out there and showing strength as a community, then our community who are not photographers will value what we have so much more, because there'll be more awareness in the community about the value and importance of photography. And so that will generate more work for us.
It's so
I
true.
think this scarcity mentality is just really leading us to be like lone wolves and to be highly competitive, where I don't think that's necessary to really have successful businesses. I think there's plenty of people getting married. There's plenty of people that are having events that need that need to be photographed. So if we show the value to people of professional photography and everything else that we offer as photographers, I think there will be more demand for it. Anyway,
I find it really interesting actually, because I actually have the opposite experience. I'm finding that there's a ton of community over competition. And I don't know if it's just because I kind of usually sit in my own little bubble in my cave of what I know sometimes with other kind of humans and people. And I don't really go deep into a lot of photography groups on Facebook, because as soon as I see negativity or any like complaining, I'm like, nope, that's not where I stay. So maybe I am just really focused on those that are really fostering community and over competition. But hey, humans, we all have a huge range of humans, right? We still have those humans that do feel that feeling of lack, and like, oh, if I don't get this wedding, someone else will, and then I won't get another one. So I think it's still important to bring up, because there are probably still photographers that are struggling with feeling like they need to compete. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like if you're feeling that way right now, it's maybe just because you weren't aware that it is actually possible to grow stronger as a community. Like I love that saying, a rising tide lifts all boats, right? Like you just mentioned, if we all just come together build up how we can provide better experiences, maybe the standard rate of a wedding photographer will go up in the industry, and it'll be more expected to be paid for couples to pay a little bit more. So I love that you mentioned that. And I don't know have you ever heard of I think it's called the Rising Tide Society. It's basically, it was created by, I think it was a wedding photographer, and they wanted to create this community over competition vibe. There's actually a hashtag on Instagram, community over competition. So maybe if you check them out, maybe those are some of your people there that you would love to connect with. It's like a huge community.
No, I guess what I mean is like, I have found like a whole community online. I just mean more like in local areas, as a like geographically, like you're only serving a specific area. So when I first started, I reached out to a whole bunch of photographers in that area, and I didn't see a lot of like community spirit in that in my efforts. And since speaking with other people who have then become a part of my community, they had this very same experiences. It was a very isolating kind of experience to speak like in the real world to other photographers in that direct geography. I think my expectations were just that I would kind of recreate what I had in academia here in Kingston with photography, but it hasn't panned out, and that's okay, because I've made some amazing photographer friends here. And so we have our own small community, you don't have to be like have everybody in the community, but that's always kind of my dream. Like have everybody on this ship.
Well, like keep dreaming, because then I'm going to say it again, keep doing those action steps and you'll get to your dream. Because I think now more than ever we all crave. Pardon?
Oh, I was just going to say, when I was interviewing for this assistant job, I had so many applications. I was really overwhelmed, and I had a few who throughout the course of the interview, basically I asked them like, why, they were just starting their own businesses. One was not even in photography. She was setting up a cleaning business. And so I said, why would you give hours of your time working on my business? Why not use that passion and energy that I see you having on this interview, use that towards building your own business? And she said, well, because other people have told me it's going to take 5 to 8 years to get this going, and I'm being realistic. And I said, yeah, but it will take that long because you're putting those hours into me. You're not putting them into you. So I essentially was like, go work on your own business. You don't need to be helping me. You need to be helping yourself, because I want to see you employing other people by year 2 or 3. I want you to be taking staff members on. I want to see you filling your calendar with what you want to do, not with what I want you to do. Like for her, it just didn't make any sense.
That's beautiful.
To help me.
Yeah. I feel like we're the same person in that sense, where if I get the sense that a person dreams of having their own business, I want to just like, let's talk for a couple hours. Like, let me get you there. Like, let me inspire you. You got this. Like, if it's possible for one person, it's possible for you too. Like, we're both like passionate about sharing that with others. That's awesome that you gave her that beautiful perspective and hopefully lit a fire under her ass that she wanted.
I hope so. I don't know. I see a lot of this in my community. Like I boarded my dogs at a kennel nearby just while we were on vacation. And when I returned, when she showed me the invoice, I was like, oh my gosh, girl, you're charging like less than half what I used to pay for a kennel that I used to drive like an hour to. And she was like, I'm just really afraid. She's been in business 7-8 years and she's charging like less than half of what is the industry rate. And I'm like, I literally stayed for an hour and a half while picking up my dogs to like talk to her about how she needs to just value herself more. She's providing this incredible service and I was willing to pay like double what she was charging me. And she's letting fear of losing like 1 or 2 customers keep her from actually like pricing herself where she should be.
Yeah. And yeah, if you stay in that cycle of fear and lack and that's all you're going to be focusing on is like all the people that maybe aren't booking you or everyone's paying you that price. So, okay, that means that that's the price I should be charging. If you're just focused on that, you can't get yourself out of the hole. You can't dig out of it. But if you maybe slowly changing your attitude and playing around, okay, you know what? Let me raise my price by $20 or let me like, especially if you just keep working on the experience you can provide. If you could just better the experience, then you can easily say, well, this experience is better now in this way, so this is why the price went up. And so there's so many ways you could dig yourself out of the hole. But the thing that can't happen is staying in that like fear and lack mentality. And this just brings it right back to what you said earlier, Viara, right? The study on the CEOs with the 3 different buckets, right? The people that you said it so beautifully. Like the people in the first bucket had more attitudes of like, I can't, I'm scared, I don't know what's going to happen. Less people are maybe going to be buying now, creating those beliefs, right? And then the people that are in the middle that had their head stuck in the sand, maybe just choosing to just sit there and wait and let me see if anything's going to happen. And then the people that were proactive and used thoughts like I can, or this is happening for me, not to me. There's opportunity. I create my life. Like it's just a huge difference. And even energetically right now, me saying those words, and even right now, if you're listening, try it out. Do an experiment with yourself right now in the car. If you're walking, like say, I can't. It's impossible. No one's going to book me. And then move it over to, it's possible for me to take one small step forward, or I can find a new wedding client this week, or I can, write up an idea for a small mini course tomorrow. I can, right? And it just like gets you fired up and changes your physiology, your mindset, everything. So yeah. Oh my gosh, this conversation has been so great, Viara. We went into all sorts of amazing deep tangents. I loved it so much. And I really hope this inspires the people listening to be more in that, like, I can do it. I can provide for myself. I can provide for my family, and I can find the opportunity in this moment that we are in. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
I have one last small practical exercise for mindset. I don't know, maybe you've shared this with others before, but something that I always share with my students who are struggling, and I started this way too, like a while ago, which made me kind of revamp my prices and everything, was write out 20 items of value that you bring to human beings, whether it's your customers or your new clientele who you might be pivoting towards. So list 20 items of value that you bring. And it could be small things like I smile at my clients, or I have professional grade equipment. I'm always on time. I'm a reliable person. I want the best. So you can just list 20 items of value that you bring through the experience that you create for your clients. And then I want you to write each one on their own line. So make sure you like a bullet list, and then read it out loud, and then add 5 more items. And this might be difficult, but just keep adding until you think you can't add more, and then add 2 more after that. So you should be left with like 30 or so items of value that you bring through the experience of serving people. And then pin it above your work desk. And I want you to read it out loud to yourself, like every chance you get. And this, I'm sorry, like I was a scientist, and I was a psychologist, so I know, like, it sounds kind of hokey, but like if you do this, you will feel a huge difference, and you will see how much value you bring. You will be convinced. And once you're convinced, then your clients will be convinced too. So then you can essentially offer whatever you like, because you know that you offer so much value to people, whether it's digitally or in person.
Yeah. And then you become unstoppable, because if you have that energy of like, I believe I am all of this. Oh man, I have so much to offer. I'm so worth $5,000, $4,000, $3,000, whatever. Right. And yeah, like you said, Viara, it's always sounds so ridiculous. Like, oh yeah, I'll write it down. I'll just say it in my head right now as I'm walking my dog or whatever. Right. No, there is so much power in writing. Right? Like people retain that information so much better. They remember it more. If you write it down, that means it means something more to you than if you just thought of it in your head, because we have like thousands and thousands and thousands of thoughts that go through our head, right? So we can't like filter them all every day. But if you're writing, you're specifically writing it down for a reason. And then even more so, you're exposed to it every day at your desk. And especially if you say it out loud, and that changes your physiology and your belief in it. And actually, one thing that one little trick that I know to be true with like kind of shifting your mindset from like a limiting belief to an empowering belief is maybe right now if you feel like it's hard to believe something, at the beginning of that sentence, just add in, I am beginning to believe that, right? Instead of being like, I am this, just say, I am beginning to become that. I am becoming that person. I'm slowly becoming that person, because that'll already because the whole point is for you to actually make your subconscious believe what you're saying. And that's a way to trick it, right?
Yeah, because you're making a bridge from where you think you are, which is that you don't have this ability, to where you want to be, which is that you do have this ability. So if you don't quite believe it, I think those are really awesome bridging words. I believe I can be there, or I'm the kind of person who can do this, or I'm getting there.
Yeah. But what's so powerful about the exercise Viara just said is that she's telling you to literally list out things you already know you offer. Like you already know that you smile at your clients, and you know that makes them feel good. So that's even more powerful, because you're already dealing with something that you know is a fact of the value that you bring to this world. So thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. I really hope you guys, choose to do this right now in your downtime. Take half an hour or 20 minutes to do that today. And choose to make that decision for yourself, for your mental well-being, for your business, for your life, right? So thank you so much, Viara, for sharing your energy, your thoughts, everything. I want to make sure everyone knows where to find you. Let us know where they can find you, and let us know also what you offer at this time if they want to connect with you with any mentoring or anything like that.
So I can give you, I have a few Instagram accounts. I'll give you some of the 2 primary ones, which is at Quirky Love Photography. That's my wedding brand. And then at Viara Mileva Photography. At Viara Mileva is just my family documentary. So I take photographs of births and families living their ordinary, extraordinary lives. And I also do wedding photography with the same philosophy, which is that the candid story is always so much more powerful than the staged. And so I'm online. If you find me at one place, you can always connect with me through the other places, because I frequently cross post. So I would love to hear from you on my Instagram. Just DM me if you have any questions about anything that I said today, because I speak fast sometimes and sometimes confuse things. So please feel free to reach out, even if you're just feeling stressed and overwhelmed and you just need a listening ear, or just to talk.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And if you guys, if Viara's words and her story touched you in some way, definitely let her know, because I know that just feeds our soul so much to just keep sharing and keep helping other people. So please reach out to her, let her know. I'll make sure to link all the places you can connect with her in the show notes. So you can go to sarahmonica.com/23 to make sure to easily find that. And yeah, hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. And Viara, I hope you too have an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks. Yay! Thank you so much for hanging out with me and tuning into this episode. If you got value out of it, please feel free to message me on Instagram at Sarah Monica Photo. That's Sarah no H, Monica with a K, photo, to let me know. I get so freaking energized hearing from others that what I've said has had a positive impact on their lives. Also, make sure to hit subscribe to the Shine and Thrive podcast to never miss an episode. I'm so grateful for you, and I'm sending you all the productive vibes your way so you have the best week ever.